Okay, my friends, we are back again with another video. This is a Northland Power Unit. This was recently sent to my shop for repairs, and we sent it back, and the customer stated that the filter was icing up, but I don't know how that's possible. However, we found out that the evaporator fan motor was squealing and maybe not turning fast enough. So I'm going to show you how to replace that evaporator fan motor. First you want to do is you want to take out these screws here so you can move that. This is a ground wire right here, and then this one here. So you need a 1/4 inch nut driver and also a 1/4 inch open end or box end to, let me get a light. These two 1/4 inch nuts right here have to be loosened, not taken out, just loosened up enough. So you pull this forward. You can also either remove the blade, or you can remove this plug here like that and pull this whole thing up in one shot. But first, the back of the motor has to be taken out of its bracket here. You'll see what I mean once I get this out. So take out these other two screws here that hold the evaporator in and pull it forward a little bit, and then you can lift it up and pull this harness out of there, and that'll give you enough room to pull this up and lift it right out. Okay, so here is the old motor right here. I did take it apart and oil it, and it seems to be not squeaking anymore, but I'm not going to take a chance because this is the second time this unit's been in my shop, and I want to make sure it's working when it gets to the customer. So here's the brand new motor, clockwise, 1/8 shaft, hub mount. So we'll make some new leads. I'm going to get rid of this old plug that goes into the fan motor into here, because I'm worried that this thing could just, in shipping, if they drop this thing comes out, you guys are going to have a problem. So we're going to bypass this and put some spade terminals on there. Alright, so let's get this new motor. Goes on like that, and then we're going to get two leads, and we're going to put them on like this. And then we're going to get a ground terminal right here and ground it. We don't have to ground it. Yes, we do have to ground it on this motor, because these actually the screws that hold this bracket in are screwed into this metal. There's metal behind here, so I did check it with the continuity meter. The motor is grounded without a ground wire, but it came with a ground wire, so let's put a ground wire back in. Alright, I'm going to put the shaft on, the fan on. That's the hub is on the inside on this, because on a clockwise motor, which turns this way, you can see the pitch of the blades. It's scooping the air and pushing it back. If you put a counterclockwise motor in there, it push the air, and that's the way the motor is supposed to run. So let's get this thing situated. And also we need this. This goes on like that. Let me drop this in here. We have to get that rear hub into that rubber bushing, which a little tricky. And it's hitting the evaporator fins. So I'm going to loosen up the evaporator coil and get this started. Push this forward so we can get this motor set in here in that hub and get those bracket on. Okay, so I got the fan motor mounted. You can see there that rear hub is in the rubber grommet in the front and the rear. The fan is not touching the evaporator, but I still have to adjust this forward a little bit. And let's put some screws in there. I put the screws back in for the evaporator. And then all we have to do after this is hook up the wiring. Just make sure that since the fan, this is a replacement motor for this unit, and couldn't get make these parts anymore for these units. Some parts they do, but you have to improvise sometimes. Okay, let's check the fan. Make sure. Okay, there's some clearance there. I can see it. I'm not worried about that. And the reason why I'm bypassing the plug that goes in through here is because I worry that this thing could become loose during shipping. I've had several of units dropped and do damage. So it's just a precaution. So we're just going to cut these wires here. Like this, and then we'll put a rubber grommet through that hole to prevent vibration from wearing away the insulation on these wires. And then I'm going to take a cable tie and put it around the bracket to keep those wires away from the fan blade. Alright, so let's do that. These are males. And we'll put the females on the other wires. So here's where we're at right now. I haven't been able to find a grommet yet for that hole, but we'll come up with something that'll at least protect the wires. We can use maybe some heat shrink tubing. But my main concern right now is this new motor. There's a little bit of play where my screwdriver is, right there. I'm worried that this motor could wind up moving forward and coming unhinged from the back and then having the blade hit the evaporator coil. I'm concerned about that. So I'm going to measure the old motor right here, and we have 1 and I want to say maybe 3/4, no, 5/8, 11/16, something like that. If the other motor is thinner than that, then it has a chance to move forward or backward, and we want to prevent that from happening. So I'm going to pull this whole thing apart again and check the depth, the width of that motor, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do to keep that motor tight in its place. So here's the original motor. The original motor, we got 5/8, 11/16. This one here, so you can see the difference already. It's a little narrower, maybe by 1/16 of an inch. Not quite sure if that's going to be enough, so let's check that bushing in the back wall. So you see, the bushing came out. That's the reason why there was a play. So we have to get this back in there. Alright, let me work on that because it's going to be tedious to do. So I got that bushing back in, and it's kind of loose. And when you push the motor in, it wants to expand and it pushes it out. So I'm going to work on figuring out how to fix that so it doesn't get redispositioned. Maybe we could stick some insulation in there to hold this in. Alright, let me work on that and we will return. Okay, so I'm going to put a piece of foam in this hole here to act as a grommet to protect the wiring while I have this out. There you go. Perfect. Alright, now I'm going to take some Mortite and stuff it in that hole in the back so that when we push the fan motor in, it doesn't dislodge the grommet. So. Be careful, these fins are like razor blades and they will slice up your hands, and I can attest to that. Okay, so here's where we're at. Back together. That rubber grommet in the back is very, very secure. After I put the Mortite in there, I also put a little silicone grease on the hub so it would slide in easily. Fan motor is not hitting the blade, and that grommet in the front is holding it all the way back so we don't have to worry about the fan being moved forward. And I put the piece of foam through here to act as a grommet to protect the wires. I connected them right there with spade terminals, and we'll turn it on, make sure it runs and it's nice and quiet. Yep, looks good. Alright, I'm going to button this thing back up and get it off to the customer.